Hi, everybody.
Welcome to Custom Quilting with your embroidery machine. Custom quilting is the type of quilting that just stops you in your tracks at a quilt show.
It sure does, because it's highlighting a very special area on that quilt.
That could be applique, embroidery designs, or precision piecing.
Right, and in this class, we're going to show you how you can make that very same look and avoid quilting over an applique or embroidery.
And not only are you going to, you're also going to learn how to handle the quilt sandwich, how to make the quilt sandwich, how to hoop it, and then also how to manage the bulk of a whole quilt.
And you don't have to have a giant hoop to do this custom quilting technique, because we're working on specific areas of a quilt top or quilt block. So this is really something anyone can do. And we're going to break down all of those steps for you today. And teaching us how to do this technique is our lead educator here at Dime, Ashley Jones.
Ashley has been with Dime for several years, and she is an embroidery wizard. She not only embroiders, but she quilts and she sews. Anything that involves an embroidery machine, she does it.
That's right. And Ashley is a great instructor, and you're going to have the confidence to do this technique yourself right after watching this class. So let's meet Ashley.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diana Mullins-Atkinson, and I will be your educator for today. I'm so sorry that you thought it was going to be Ashley. I've got big feet to fill, I know, but I will be your educator for the next 90 minutes, and I am thrilled to be with you today to talk about custom quilting, one of my absolute favorite things to do. I've been a quilter for decades, and I love being able to use my embroidery machine to do all of my finished quilting and more. And so we're going to talk about other things other than just doing our quilts today. But we couldn't be with you all if it weren't for our good friends at Oh My Crafty. So we want to thank Matt Winters and his whole crew there at Oh My Crafty for hosting today's event. Please check out their website. I know that they would love for you to come by and see them. So there is one more person that I want to introduce you all to today, because you're going to get to meet her over in the chat window, and that's our very only one and only Tammy Madden. Hey, Tammy, come on in.
Hey, Diane, I'm excited to be here with you. They have already started rolling in. We have people from South Africa and the UK, so we're excited to be here. We can't wait to see what you offer during our custom quilt event today.
That's fantastic. Welcome to all of our friends around the world. We love having you all with us today. Now, folks, Tammy is super experienced at quilting and embroidery. She is part of our education team, so you are in super good hands over in the chat. And Tammy, why don't you share with everybody what goes on over in the chat today?
Absolutely, Diana. Well, I will be over here for the next 90 minutes during the presentation. I'm over here to answer any questions that you have, or you can leave me comments. Tell me what your favorite Dime product, because every 30 minutes, around 30 minutes, I will get back with Diana, and I'll be bringing some of those questions to her during a live Q&A. So don't be afraid to ask your questions, because we love when you ask questions. Don't be shy, because if you have that question, I bet 5 other people have that same question. So ask them away. Don't leave me hanging over here, and we'll get back with Diana about, like I said, every 30 minutes for some questions for her.
Great. That sounds wonderful, Tammy. Like I said, I know everyone's in good hands. And yes, folks, don't leave Tammy hanging, because like she said, if you have that question, probably several other of our guests today have it too. And we'd love to make sure that you go away from this event with lots of new tips and tricks, new ways to do your quilting, and to get all of those questions answered. So Tammy, if you're ready to get started, you can head over to the chat and we'll get rolling.
Sounds great.
Good. See you in about 30 minutes. Okay, everybody, once again, thank you so much for joining me today for custom quilting with your embroidery machine. Now, we are going to talk about quilting our quilts, doing the finished quilting on our quilts. But because quilting designs are quite simple run stitch designs, no satin stitches, no filled stitches as a part of them, you can really use them to decorate other kinds of items as well. And we're going to talk about all of that today. So now you may have done a process in the past called edge to edge quilting. You take one, maybe two designs, and over multiple hoopings, you quilt your entire quilt sandwich, and it's beautiful. It's a great way to get all your quilts done fast and easy. Give them out as gifts. If you're like me, I've got a pile of them in the living room, so everybody can just grab one when they need to wrap up in their favorite quilt. And edge-to-edge quilting is perfect for that. But today we're going to be talking about custom quilting. Now, custom quilting is equally as wonderful for your day-to-day quilts, but custom quilting can really add something special to your quilts, because instead of a single design over your entire quilt, you can choose where you put your quilting and what that quilting looks like. So you might be someone who likes micro stippling. You might like feathers like I do. You could decide to not quilt the corners here and only quilt in the middle. This process gives you full control of how you do your quilts. And as Eileen and Deborah were saying in our intro video, this is a perfect technique for using smaller hoops, like your 4x4 and your 5x7. Not to say that you can't use your larger hoops, but those smaller hoops are great because you can really just hoop the parts that you want to quilt. So you can end up with your quilt looking like this one. And isn't that gorgeous? Look at this close up here where we see the beautiful medallion in the center and these gorgeous feathers. I'm rubbish at doing feathers by hand on my sewing machine, but mine can look perfect every single time, and so can yours when you use your embroidery machine for your quilting. Now, some of you may have heard of or may have done an older technique of quilting called crazy quilting, very popular in the 1700s, and it typically is done by hand because you have a lot of really intricate stitching, special applique, special embroidery. But today we're going to see how we can do crazy quilting on our embroidery machine. So we can make something as beautiful as this lovely quilt you're seeing here, all on the embroidery machine, and you're going to love how simple that is. We're also going to talk today about how you can do your quilting around an object that is on your quilt, like your applique, so that you're not quilting over the top of it. I'm going to show you that process as well. And like I said, quilting can be put on lots of things other than our quilts, like this cute little mermaid stocking. Isn't that adorable? I love that. And this has got all these beautiful little sequins on it, but the tail, that's where the quilting is, and it adds something extra, that finishing touch to that piece, and has nothing to do with a full quilt at all, but it sure makes a difference on that little item. And they're also great for that one thing that we all kind of love to make nowadays, mug rugs. And you could create your own mug rugs and put your own designs on them really easily. And I think that's a gorgeous way to use custom quilting. Now, custom quilting, you all may have heard of Amelie Scott Designs. Christine Connor is the founder of that company. And you may be thinking, Amelie Scott Designs are edge to edge. But Christine has come out with a whole set of designs for custom quilting as well. And we're going to go over that in a lot more detail today, but you can see some of those beautiful designs she has right there. So topics for today. We're going to talk about designing your quilting, and we're going to be talking about that using Dime's premier software, My Quilt Embellisher. We're also going to be talking about using design collections like the one from Amelie Scott. We're also going to be giving you tips for your thread and your needles. I'm going to show you a way that in the software where you can audition your fabric and your quilting and your thread before you ever get it to your embroidery machine. So you'll know exactly what that's going to look like. We're also going to give you tips and tools for accurate placement and hooping. And really, in my opinion, one of the most important things when you're doing any kind of quilting, embroidery machine, sewing machine, even by hand, is you must manage the weight of the quilt. So we're going to be talking about Dime's weightless quilter today, plus a brand new product for managing your quilt. So stay tuned with me, and I'll be talking to you about that a little bit later. Now, we want to thank you all so much for spending your time with us today. We know on a Tuesday there could be other things you wanted or needed to do, but the fact that you decided to support Dime and our good friends at Oh My Crafty by being at our event, we're truly thankful for that. And we want to send you all a free gift. This little quilted block design. Isn't that cute? Do you all remember the love stamp from the 70s and that piece of artwork where it came from? Well, that's what this kind of denotes here. And so you can get this just by going right below the presentation window into the shopping area, go to the last page in the shopping area, the last item, add this to your shopping cart. And when you check out today, you'll get an email from us with all the instructions and the design file. So you can choose the file that matches your embroidery machine, and you can make your own little love mats. I love those. And I'll show you what I did with mine here in just a little bit. So here's how today is going to work. You're watching me right now in the presentation window, and over to the side, hopefully you're over there chatting with Tammy and with one another. The more you all chat and ask questions, I think the more you're going to get out of today's event. So don't be shy with Tammy, and don't be shy with one another. You never know, you might make a great new quilting friend. And then you can ask those questions and all throughout the entire event. And then below me, as I said, is a whole shopping area. And when you see those tools or products that interest you, click that button that says view product. That'll bring up a whole description page for you and a button to allow you to add that product to your shopping cart. When you check out, you'll click the checkout button, and that'll bring up another page that will let you add today's free shipping code, which is Harvest Days. Now, obviously that should be 2 words, but we're going to ask you to type it in as one word. Uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter, but just type it in as one word, and then you will get free shipping on any physical item that you purchase, shipped to any address in the United States. So, need a little bit of inspiration before we get started? Well, let's go under my camera right now and let me show you a few things to kind of get our mind going a little bit on custom quilting. So on this small mat you see here, it was custom quilted in that I did different quilting designs on every part of these. So I did one block 4 times, sewed it together, and quilted them differently. Now I'm going to bring this up under my camera just a little bit better so you can see it. So there's one design. I have another design here in this part, and I have just some stippling here in this part. And for custom quilting, like I said, you can choose to do as much of the quilting, quilt as much of your project as you like, or leave some of it alone. So I could have left these pieces unquilted if I wanted, or quilted just this outside and put something in my center squares. That's the fun of quilting and using your embroidery machine, is you get to be as creative as you like. And on this sample, I want to bring up the subject of your fabric and your quilting design. When you look at this, you barely see the quilting in my printed fabric. And that brings up the idea that prints or busy fabrics or large prints really suck your quilting in where you don't see them as much. So you don't really have to worry about using really complicated or intricate designs in those areas. But solids, well, you can see that quilting design pretty easily, can't you? So with solids, you're going to see your quilting design much more clearly. So those are the places you might want to put a more intricate design. So I wanted you to see that. I thought that would help a little bit. And then here is just one more little wall quilt that I did, or could be used as a table mat as well, that has all kinds of custom quilting in it. Now, I know it's a little hard because I used the white, but on this one, you can actually see the stippling a little bit better than you could on that first one that I showed you. So those are some little quilt designs, but now I want to show you, I told you I'd show you what I did with my little love mat, my free gift. I made a full little wall hanging from it. And for mine, I chose to do kind of a gradation of color, starting with light, working into the darker. And then I quilted the whole thing, did all the quilting in white so that the applique portions stand out. So again, by the color thread you use, you can make your quilting come to the forefront and be the star of the show, or sink into the background. Now for me, this color is my favorite color to quilt with. It literally is a color that tends to go and blend with just about any other color. And so I could have done that quilting with this color. And this is number 904. It's Dimes Exquisite 40 weight thread number 904, if you're curious. And then this one is, I consider it the equivalent in Dimes King Star metallic thread. And yes, you can absolutely quilt with metallic thread as well. And this is part of our jewel tone metallic thread collection that is available today. Now, we also talked about being able to quilt around items. And you can see that here with my little boot. All of this is quilted in the background. And I've quilted around my little boot so that I haven't quilted over any of it. And you can always add lettering and fonts and sayings over your quilting, or like I did here, quilt around it as well. And I was telling you that quilting designs aren't just for quilting. What about using them to decorate your little handbags, your little zippy pouches? Anything that you want a really pretty design on, that you don't want it to be a satin or a fill stitch or an applique, try out a quilting design that can really turn out quite pretty, I think. So those are some samples to kind of get us going. So now let's go back to our presentation. So today we're going to talk about designing your quilt. You can either design your quilt with purchase design collections, like I was talking about before, or you can make your own designs with My Quilt Embellisher. In these photographs, you're seeing applique on these blocks. And again, we've quilted around it instead of over it. And I'm going to be able to show you how to do that. Or you can design your own little custom pieces exactly how you want. This particular idea is called mosaic quilting, and I'm going to show you how you can do that as well. And all of that was done in Dimes Premier software, My Quilt Embellisher. And so it can simulate the look of heirloom quilting. It can truly make a bed quilt into a work of art. If you want to enter a quilt into a show or a competition, using My Quilt Embellisher, you can make that quilt exactly what you want it to be. And it'll be a really beautiful quilt in the end, a really good showpiece. In My Quilt Embellisher, there's lots of things that you can do, over 300 stippling designs, echo quilting, crazy quilting, which we'll talk about later. There's even over 50 fonts in here so that you can even create your quilt labels. So let's go right to the software. So I know that I am in My Quilt Embellisher because under this little green shopping cart button, there is My Quilt Embellisher all lit up in blue, and there's a check mark. That tells me the software has been activated. The software is standalone. You don't need to purchase any other software to make this work, and all the updates for Dimes software are always free. We'll talk more about that. This button right here brings you to a manual that you can download to your computer or print out, whatever you prefer, and a whole slew of video tutorials as well. Plus, there's lots of other learning aids, which I'll go over with you in a bit. But in this software, this button right here, that's our block library, and that's where all the magic happens because we have thousands of block designs. Now, these are pieces of art that look like blocks. You don't piece your block with this. You have already pieced your block. These are pieces of art so that you can plan your quilting over the top of them. But there are so many of them here. You can just keep going and going and going. Even your piece things like flowers and all of those are in here. One of the most basic things you can do for your quilting is to come into this basic category and choose the square. And if you have blank squares, then this would be a really easy way for you to start. Get your feet wet a little bit in the software. So all of my blocks come in at 8 by 8 inches. And I know that when I come right over here to my transformation button, it says 8 by 8. I want to make sure that my maintain aspect ratio is clicked for this particular block, and I always want to make sure regenerate stitches are clicked, because that makes sure that whenever I resize something in the software will recalculate all of my stitches so that my stitch out is going to be perfect in the end. So we'll leave it at 8 by 8, but if I wanted, I could change it to 6 by 6 or whatever finished block size. Okay, so let's think about that for a moment. Finished block size. So you don't have to worry about typing in your seam allowance, because we're just doing the quilting over the finished block. So I don't need to put in 8.25 or anything like that on this particular block. Then right up here, this is where all of the quilting designs reside. We have texture, we have stippling, we have advanced stippling, contouring, shape echo shapes, all kinds of things. So let's go first right into our texture, which is what we call our motif stitches. And you can see there are tons of them in here, right? Lots of them. So I can click on one, click OK. It fills that block with quilting. Now I could just save this, take it to my machine, and I'd be done. However, to be honest, this is a little bit tight. That quilting is a little bit tight. But if I click right here where it says pattern length and change that number, click apply, it changes that for me. And I like that far better. So there is my quilting. Now that color is kind of light. Let's just go ahead and change it to a darker color so it's easier to see for you. So there is the quilting. If I click over here on my realistic or my 3D button, it literally lets me see my quilting. So that's very cool as well. Now, I can do my blocks, my solid blocks, or if I want to do, even if I have something in there, it's a pieced block, I can do it all in the same quilting if I want in a single block. But I can also make my borders as well. Now your borders, of course, will be in pieces according to the largest hoop you have. And so you might have to make a few of them and sew them together end to end, but that's quick and easy to do. So to do that, I'm going to leave this and come back over here to my transformation button. This time I'm going to unclick maintain aspect ratio, because now I can change everything as I want. And I typically like a 3-inch finished border. So I'm going to type that in. And let's say your biggest hoop is a 5 by 7. In order to give myself some wiggle room, I'm going to put in 6.5 there. And there is my border piece. So to save this or any design, now that I've created it, I just come up to File, Save As. I tell it where in my computer I want to save my design, maybe directly to a USB stick. I give it a name. We'll just say Quilt Design 1 there. And then right here, I'm going to choose my machine file format, my embroidery machine file format. Do you have Brother or Baby Lock? Then yours would be PES. If you have Janome, JEF. They're all listed here. All of the popular machines have their formats in here, plus some professional formats as well. Then you choose it, you save it, and then you have a design ready to go and quilt. Now, I also want to show you how you can make your quilting go around your designs, like we showed you in some of those little samples. So let's go back into our quilting library and let's go into our connector blocks. And I'm going to choose this diamond in a square. I'm not going to change the size on this. It's perfectly fine as it is, but I want to go around an applique. So I've already pieced this block and it has a little Santa hat applique on it. So I just pop my little applique design in so that I can visually see it. In order to quilt around it, I need to make an outline around this. And I know some of you are thinking, oh, I could never draw an outline around something like that. That's fine, because we don't have to. Look how easy it is. I right click with the piece highlighted and I say utility, create outline. And right here, I can tell it how far away from my applique do I want that little outline to be. Now for applique, I like it to be pretty tight. So I leave it at the default, but you could change it to 0.25 if you wanted that border to be about 1/4 inch. If you like, that would be fine as well. But look what happens when I click OK. See that little design there? That's my outline. Now I'm going to hold the control key on my keyboard, and I'm also going to highlight just this inner square, and I'm going to come right up here to this button that says combine. Now do you see what happened? There is actually a cutout of my design. You can even see it right over here. Can you see the little cutout? So now I know that my quilting will go around it and not over it. So now to add my quilting, I'm going to click on that inner block. I'm going to come in here and I'll choose another design. And I might make that a little bit bigger. There we go. Now that part is done. And now I'm going to hold down my control key again and click all 4 of my corner triangles. And I'm going to come in here and choose Echo Shape. And that brings up all these different shapes that I can use. And I'm going to choose this star. Now, again, comes in really tight there. So let's make that a bit bigger. There we go. Now, do you see what that looks like? Can you see that there is a whole design in each one of these? What I really would prefer is that it looks like one big starburst coming out from the middle of that block. So again, that's really easy. While I have all 4 of them highlighted, I will again come up here and click. And now it combines all of those and it looks like there's one star radiating out. Let's actually change that color too so we can see it. Let's make that one a green. Now you can see that. And so now I'm going to click on my applique and get rid of it because I don't need to save it. That applique is already on my quilt. So now I have the design for that block and it will quilt around my applique. And again, I just come over to File, Save As, and save that design. Isn't that fun and easy? I love doing that when I have my appliques to go around. Let's bring in a new work surface now, and let's go back in here to our connector blocks. I want to choose my 9 patch and bring it in. Now there's something special that you can do in my Quilt Embellisher. You can either take photographs of your fabric and save them as .bmp bitmaps, or you can go to fabric manufacturers' websites and they have little thumbnails of their fabric collections. Many of them do. And then you can save those directly into the software and you can highlight whatever blocks you want. Come up here where it says fabric and bring in one of the blocks that you like, one of the fabrics or whatever fabrics you like. So there is the fabric that I'm going to use there. Now I'm seeing my fabric in there. Wasn't that fun? Now I need to do my quilting. So right up here in this box, it's called embellishment. We have actual little embellishment sets. They give you a full design, a border design, and a corner design. And there's all kinds of them in here. I actually want to go into the holiday collection because, you know, holidays are now right around the corner. I'm going to grab this little one with the jingle bells. Now, this obviously is too big for my square, but if I take one of my little nodes there and rotate it and bring it down, I can resize it to fit in there just how I like it. And remember, the software will recalculate those stitches for me. So that piece of quilting is done. Now I want to do my 4 corners and I'm going to use this little design. So I can also do this another way. If I click on my box and come over here, it says it's 2.67 by 2.67. Okay. So now I'm going to click on that little design that I just brought in, and it's bigger, obviously. So I'm going to make that a wee bit smaller so that it fits inside there easily. There we go. And now, there I go. I have my design. Now, if I come up here and say copy, paste, and flip, I can bring another one over into this box. And if I say copy, paste, flip top to bottom, and then I can bring this one down here and then copy, paste, and flip again. I can bring another one over here. And now I have my quilting done for this particular design. Hang on just a second. There we go. I need to get rid of that. There we go. So now I have this design done. I can save this now and do my quilting. Wasn't that fun and easy? And look at all of the different ones. Whenever there's a plus sign, use that little plus sign because there's more underneath it. So there's tons of design sets already built in. Now, one more thing I want to show you real quick. We're almost ready for our first Q&A, so I hope you're asking your questions over there with Tammy. I want to show you how to do those mosaics. If you come back into our design library and click mosaic tile, it will bring up these particular patterns. And these patterns can be used for all over quilting, quilting on a single mat, anywhere you want to put it. And you just bring this in. Now, if I choose a design, and I'm going to choose a design from our advanced stippling. If I do that, it fills in all of those blocks the same. And that may be what you want, and that's perfectly okay. You could come over here and change your pattern length, save it, and be ready to go. But the fun about mosaic quilting, if I click back on my back arrow or my undo, or what Tammy over in the chat, she calls it the $1 million button, and I unhighlight everything, then I can come in and highlight each box and I can put a different quilting pattern in each box really simply. I can change again my pattern length if I like, no problem at all there. And then I can come in and fill in all of these with different designs. And I will tell you, many nights I get called or knocks on my door saying, will you please come to dinner now? Are you going to come to bed now? Because I really get lost in this process. It's a lot of fun. And now I'm showing you with the motifs and the advanced stippling, but you could work with this with the regular stippling if you like as well. I'll show you one of those here in a second. We'll see what we think about that. There we go. On this one, let's see what our just stippling looks like. Yeah, you might like that. That looks fine. And then let's do one more down here. Let's see. Let's try this one right here. There we go. See, it gets hard to pick because there's so many gorgeous different designs. There you go. Now, I notice some of you are probably thinking there's some little open areas here. That's really easy to fix. Just highlight your whole piece. Come up here and say copy, paste, and run stitch. And then that will add a run stitch around all of yours. Now, I think I chose a motif stitch there, but that will close up all of those. And then you just save that and you can use it for your quilting. So one more quick piece. I want to show you real quickly how you can make your own labels. So let's go in and let's go down to our classic stars. A lot of times we start quilting because we love stars, and I think they make a really beautiful way to do your own quilt labels. So here is your block. Now I'm going to change this to about a 4x4. I'm going to click maintain aspect ratio, go 4x4 because it doesn't need to be 8x8 inches. And you can match your block to the theme of your quilt if you wanted. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click the run stitch. And it is, yeah, it's set to special motif. So let's set it back to standard. There we go. Now it is a standard run stitch. Now, in order to add the part where I'm going to do my lettering, I'm going to come up here and click rectangle from my artwork tool. Bring this out. Click run stitch. Flipped on me again. Hang on. There we go. See how easy it is to change things? I mean, I'm just re-clicking and it's resetting it for me. Now I can come in here to my text, choose any of my fonts in here that I like. I kind of like this ribbon one. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller of a font. And then I'm going to come in here and say handmade for you 2022, because I like to make quilt labels that are a little bit more generic, and then that way I can put them on backs of everything. Oh, my 2022 didn't pop in. Hang on. Let's back that up. Now let's save it and apply it. I'm not sure why that's not popping in. Okay. Oh, it's because I do know. So if we look here, do you see where numbers aren't included? So I chose a font with no numbers. So when you're in here and you choose your fonts, let's choose another one. Let's do this again. See where there are numbers now. So now if I just get rid of that and go down and now put in 2022, this should apply in here. There we go. Now I have my numbers there. And so now let's see what this looks like. There we go. And now I can print that out and have my label. Now I know we're a few minutes over our 30 minutes. So let's just finish up talking about my quilt embellisher, and then we'll bring Tammy on for our Q&A. So we support multiple design formats. Whatever format your machine takes, you can save your files or bring them in to work with them. We also have long arm quilting formats and artwork SVG as well. You get free updates for the life of the software. So whenever Dime upgrades their software, they always add new goodies of some sort, and you get those for free. And it's completely Windows and Mac compatible. Folks, you don't need Parallels or Boot Camp to run Mac, no kind of a different alternative work area to do that. You'll get the instructions to load this right into your OS software. It's really super simple. And today we have the My Quilt Embellisher bundle available as a download. So you could start playing in this evening for just $399.99. But we're also going to send you 2 learning aids, which are normally for purchase, but today you're going to get them free. That is 8 embroidery software success lessons. These are PDF lessons that load to your computer and walk you through learning your software lesson by lesson, and a 30-minute private tutorial session with the Dime educator of your choice. The 2 of you will meet in Zoom. You'll ask your questions. She'll show you her computer and the software, what she presses. You can talk through your questions with her and get all of your questions answered. We also have tons of free education available as well, like free in-app videos. Just hover over the button that you're interested in. It will tell you what it does. And if you press the F2 key on your keyboard, it'll bring up a super quick little video that will show you what that does. Now, there's no sound here, okay? It's just showing you so you can focus right in on what it's telling you and showing you to do. And these are really short and quick. Like I said, 30 seconds or less. When you're done, you're right back into your project. If you go to inspiredbydime.com and click on support and click community forums, you'll also see all of our other learning aids as well. These 4, our Facebook group, our YouTube videos, Eileen's blog. Eileen Roach, our founder, has been writing a blog for years. I promise you, you will learn lots from her blog. Plus our inspiration forum where you can ask questions, all free to everyone. And then it will also show those for purchase aids. You're going to get them free today when you purchase your software. But if you ever need another 30-minute session with a Dime educator to help you with a project in the software, then you can purchase one and be able to meet with an educator. Now, we're going to talk about another one of my favorite products when we come back from the Q&A, and that's Dime's Print and Stick Target Paper, because it's going to help you have perfect placement with all of this beautiful quilting. But for now, let's bring Tammy in and see what's going on over in the chat. Tammy, how are our guests? Do they have any questions for us today?
Well, Diana, we have lots of questions for you. You know, I love it over here. I've been so busy, I didn't even realize we passed 30-minute mark already. You know, but I want to start with this comment from Mary Ann. She has been a loyal customer. I've seen her several times over in her chat.
Mary Ann.
She says she loves doing custom quilting. It adds so much to any project, and your software makes it so very easy. Now, we have lots of questions about the software. You know, they're really concerned. It looks intimidating. Am I going to be able to learn this? So one of the questions we had was, how do I know how these functions work? And I just was trying to type them over in the F2 function about the F2, and you just hit it on a little bit. But really, this should not be intimidating. Do you agree?
No, folks, this really isn't an intimidating software to use because Dime does something really nice. They make their softwares all button driven. You can get in there and start pressing and playing around. You'll never break the software. I promise you that. Eileen promised me because I was a little hesitant when I first started out with software. She said, Diana, get in there and play with it. You're not going to break it. But one of the things is we want you to have success and enjoy the software. That's why we have all of those learning aids for free. And you're going to get those, what are normally the two purchase aids, you're going to get those for free. So here's my suggestion. I think Tammy would agree with me too. When you get your software downloaded, download those PDF lessons and start working through them. Make yourself notes. Do your questions, then sign up for your one-on-one tutorial and bring those questions with you to that tutorial. Check out each button. Look at the little buttons with the F2 videos. Check those out and watch them. They're really helpful. And in our Facebook users group, where all the educators are there to help answer questions, and so are the other users of our software. It's a really great community, and promise you, you're never going to be alone in your journey in learning this software. One of us is always available at some point to help you out so that you learn it. So just jump in with both feet. I think you're going to love it.
Yes, and I totally agree with you, Diana. You know, I have been talking with Dime. They should put a warning label on the software, all their software, because most of the time I get lost in all of it because I, like you said, I lose track of time, and next thing I know, my kids haven't been fed. But don't worry, they're all know to take care of themselves, so none of my kids are going starving.
Oh,
but yes,
good.
just, you know, you can spend hours in here. Just get in there, play around. Like Diana says, you can't break it.
That's right. That's right. I know it's, folks, honestly, I know it's intimidating to work with software. And I was right at the head of that group several years ago before I started working with software. I love the idea about it, but it scared me a little bit because I thought I would get in and break something. And to be honest, let's be honest, it's a little bit of a consideration to do something like this. But I got in there, started playing, was told, had that voice in my head, you can't break it, Diana. And I didn't. And yeah, I messed up some of my first designs, but then I would go back and redo them and maybe review a lesson. And before you knew it, before I knew it, I was quilting with my embroidery machine by using my own designs really easily. So you can do it too if I can.
Yep. And if you do something wrong, guess what? You have that $1 million button. You just have to back out.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we have some more questions, so we better get to it because I know you have a lot going on. So one question we had was they wanted to know, can you do this in My Quilt Planner? So I just thought maybe you can skim over the difference between My Quilt Planner and My Quilt Embellisher.
My Quilt Planner is another standalone software from Dime that helps you plan out the overall quilting. It's more for edge-to-edge quilting. You don't create your own quilting in it for customization the way you do in this software. Now you can bring designs that you create in this software and use them in the planner so that you can plan out the quilting for your whole quilt at one time. But mostly we use My Quilt Planner for edge-to-edge quilting, and that's a whole nother subject.
Yes. You know, I'm so sorry, Diane. I was not watching when you were doing your quilting label, so I didn't know how to answer this question. Were you quilting that label directly onto the fabric, or were you making a quilting label patch?
You can do it either way you like. In fact, when we go back, I have some samples to show you of some of those things that I was just making in the software so that you can see them, and I'll be showing you that label here in just a moment.
Great. One more question, I promise, and then I'll let you go. Jane says, if you're playing with the size of an embellishment, how do you know that it's centered in the area of the embroidery?
Oh, that's a great question. In fact, when we go back, I'll try to remember. You can highlight the design and highlight the design that it's on, the space that it's on. And there's a whole slew of little buttons at the top that allow you to do alignment. And I'll show you that. Plus, we have some alignment tools for when you're working right on your actual quilt as well, Jane. Great question. And we'll talk about that more in the event today.
Okay. Now, Rhonda, I do see your question, but I will answer you over in the chat because we need to let Diana get back because I know there's a lot more to show us, and it's going to answer some of these questions that I'm seeing popping in. So, Diana, we'll check with you back a little about 30 more minutes.
Great. Thank you so much, Tammy. See you in a bit. And thank you, everybody, for those great questions. Now, we're going to go directly under my camera because I want to share with you some of the ideas that I was just telling you about. So here's a little quilt block that I did, very similar to that Santa hat. But on this one, I chose to do that design all in quilting on one piece of fabric. So this isn't even pieced. It's got a applique on one piece of fabric, but I quilted it as if it was pieced. That's something else you can do. But in order to line up my design, I printed out a piece of print and stick target paper from Dime with the design on it. And I'll show you how to do that in the software here in just a moment. And I put it on my block, which was just fabric and my applique, put it on there, hooped this, took it to my embroidery machine, and with the functions on my machine, I was able to get my needle right into the center. And then I knew that I was lined up in the block. I removed the sticker, and then I was able to do my quilting. So that's one way to get alignment on the quilt itself when you're actually at your embroidery machine. And I use print and stick target papers for this type of thing all the time. Print and stick target paper is truly your friend. And we have packages of 20 sheets available today. Now, here is that little label that I made. Okay. Now, I made my label like this, and I could come in and turn this under and whip stitch it onto the back of my quilt if I wanted to. I could fuse it if I wanted to. Or if my whole quilt was here, I could just stitch this directly onto the backing fabric of my quilt. I think that's actually a great way to do that. Then you're not having to worry about going back and hand sewing something on there. So you could do that first before you actually finish your quilting. There you go. Now, I was showing you before how you can do your borders. Here's one border that's done, and I would just divide out my whole side length of my quilt, decide how much I need, and then I'd make as many of these as I need, and I would just sew them together along that little 1/4 inch right there. Very simple to do. Now, here is the mosaic that I did. Very easy and quick to do. So you can see I have a different design in every single rectangle there. And this is really great for something called whole cloth quilting, where your whole quilt top is nothing but one piece of fabric. It could be a solid or a print, but mosaic quilting looks really beautiful on whole cloth quilting as well. So one other thing I want to talk to you about real quick is, so this is that idea that you can put quilting designs on just about anything you want. So here's a piece of red velveteen, which hasn't, this just came off the roll, so it hasn't been pressed, but here it is. Now, I would take Dime's fusible no-show stabilizer. So it is like a no-show mesh stabilizer that I bet a lot of you have used. And this is one of my favorite quilting stabilizers, is a no-show mesh. You can see this side has like the adhesive on it. I would place this on the back of my fabric and I would fuse it. And this is the stabilizer. So now I'm going to go ahead and hoop this, okay? I don't want to use a batting with this. I just want to hoop it. And then I could take and fill it with a quilting design, any quilting design I want. And then when I'm done, I could do something like make Christmas stockings. I could cut out my pattern pieces and look, it's all got the quilting completely on it. And then I could go and sew it together on my sewing machine and make cute little Christmas stockings. So you can do all kinds of things with the quilting in my quilt embellisher. Don't think that it's only for using with your quilts. Now, if you don't see this stabilizer in your shopping cart, check back, refresh your shopping cart towards the end of the event because we're trying to get it put in there, and it should be back there. So we talked briefly about the print and stick target paper. Again, 20 sheets come in a package for just $17.99. It will go through an inkjet or a laser jet. The other thing I love about this print and stick is it's a little translucent, so I can see through it. I was able to see through that target sticker that I made and see my applique, which makes it really easy to make sure that my applique and my quilting is where it needs to be. So now let's talk about selecting our quilt designs. There's about 5 elements that I think about every time. How will I use the quilt? What fabrics are on the quilt? Is there a theme to my quilt? Does the quilt have embroidery or applique? Is there a focal point? So if we are going to use a fabric or a quilt that's going to have a lot of use to it, right? A baby quilt, that quilt that you throw in the living room that everybody gets under when you watch a TV together or a film on a Saturday night while you're eating your popcorn. Anything like that that's going to get a lot of use, I suggest using a more airy design, maybe a different airy design in each block like you see here, or a couple of them. But nothing has to be real intricate here, right? Because it's kind of for everyday use. It may get laundered quite a bit. However, if you're going to do an heirloom piece, a keepsake piece, a piece for a competition, that's when you really want to get in there and use your really decorative designs. You want them to be more intricate. Some of those I showed you where it had some kind of quilting in every part of those squares. That's when you want to use that when you're doing those kinds of designs. Now, you might want to do that for your everyday quilts too. Remember, you're the quilter, you're the artist here. You can decide how you want to do it, but that's kind of how I break my quilting up. Fabrics as well. We talked about this all the way back at the beginning in that one sample I showed you. Large or busy prints, the quilting really sinks into it. It allows that fabric to be the star of the show. That's great. And with that, again, I would use kind of a airier, not so intricate design. Solids or prints that read as solid, like low volume prints, things like that, they are perfect for bringing in your more intricate designs because your quilting is really going to pop out. In this scenario is also when you want to think about your thread. If you want your quilting to sink into your project, use a thread that kind of matches the background. If you want that quilting to be the star of the show, then use something that is going to really stand out from the fabric. So is there a theme to your design like we see here, like these little anchors or the Christmas trees, the applique, or right here, these beautiful little pumpkin designs? Think about that when you're doing it because you can really match up your quilting designs to the theme of your quilt or your table runner or whatever project you're making. Also, is there an embroidery design on your quilt that you really like? What about using a shape of that design in strategic places around your quilt or echoing around your quilt? Another great way, like we did with the applique that I showed you, to echo around it can make a really beautiful quilt that way. So quilting design, so far we've talked about making our own, but I also want to talk to you about collections. These are quilting designs that come ready to put on your USB stick and to use on your embroidery machine. You don't have to have software to do them. You can play with them in software though. So let's take a look at these. We have a brand new one here at Dime called Ocean Waves. So if you love that ocean feel, that nautical idea, you're going to love this collection. You get 22 unique designs and they come in shapes. So if you're doing diamonds, squares, circles, borders, half square triangles, they're already shaped like that so that you can fit them in to those different shapes on your quilt. And you also get all over quilting designs. So if you want to use those for borders, maybe you want to do an edge to edge with those, you could as well. This collection is a download for just $35.99 in our event, thanks to our collaboration with Oh My Crafty. Here's another design set called Fun with Squares. If you're new to quilting and you're brand new to quilting with your embroidery machine, get yourself a couple of packets of 5x5 fabric squares, charm squares, whatever you call them, and sew them together randomly. Put together your quilting sandwich, which is your top fabric, your batting, and your backing fabric, and get yourself the Fun with Squares set, because these have all these square designs plus the corner designs and border designs. You could put a different one of these in every square, and before you know it, you're going to have a full quilt done. And isn't this pretty? I mean, there's a different design in every quilt. Or use, like this one, 2 different colors. One design in one design in another. These come for 4, 5, or 6-inch blocks. If you take them into the software, though, you can adjust your sizing there. But typically 4, 5, and 6-inch blocks, that's usually what we would do for a quilt like that. $35.99. It's a download as well. And now here is my absolute favorite, Stipple Mania. I love a good stipple design. I'll use stippling all over the place. I just love how it looks. And so with this set, you get 35 unique designs, 79 designs in multiple sizes. So your designs come in multiple sizes. And you can see here, you get stipples that are in specific shapes. Your all over stippling also has shapes, or you get just your fill-in stippling. You get your sashing, again, a download for $35.99. Now, I wanted to show you these 2 sets. One is called Love You More. It's great for Valentine's, wedding quilts, baby quilts. Maybe you're someone that just loves hearts and more. You'll love that set. But I showed you that little table runner because of the theme in the theme picture. So we also have Pumpkin Parade as a set available too. Perfect for making either a quilt or for your home decor projects. Another great way to do your own custom quilting is on your home decor. So we have that set available as well. And then we have Tapestry. Tapestry really is beautiful. You get 22 unique designs that can go around your borders, inside your blocks. $35.99 again. All of these are downloads available today. So I want to take us under my camera again real quick and show you a couple of those designs. So in this little piece that I put together, this is from Stipple Mania. This is from Pebble Passion. Now we have a couple of other sets that you didn't see slides for. They're in the shopping area, and one of them is called Pebble Passion. And if you love pebbles, you're going to love this collection. I can't do pebbles. They're supposed to be super simple. No, I'm total rubbish at pebbles. But I can do them with this collection, and they look gorgeous. And if you do a double thickness of batting, you get a really beautiful trapunto look here. This is our Fun with Squares. This is another set you'll find in the shopping cart called Swirls and Paisleys. So those are just some of the designs that you can get in those download collections. And you can use them for anything. You can mix and match them all in one quilt. If you like Pebble Passion and you like Fun with Squares, mix and match those in a quilt. Do whatever you like. Also great, again, for home decor items. Let's go back to our presentation now and talk about Dime's Center It Kit. We're almost ready for our second Q&A, so be asking your questions over there in the chat. Our Center It Kit, we've been talking about the print and stick target paper. Those, after you use them after a while, the sticky wears off and you would have to redo one, and that's fine. I love using them and they do last a long time. But when I'm doing a large quilt and I know that I need some generalized centering in certain areas, I love the centering kit. These are 12-inch templates. You get 3 of each shape. You get squares, circles, hexagons, 40-degree diamonds, and 60-degree diamonds. And you can take one of them, cut it down, and use it if it's a size that you use normally. And you can take these right to your machine. Here are our shapes. All you do is cut them to size. I always leave one in each set at the full 12 inches. Then you can place them onto your fabric, stick them down, use the functions on your machine to get them to line up to that center point, and then you can remove it and it's ready to go. Now here in this one, you saw a blue sticker. Here you're seeing a yellow sticker. One is for pre-marking before you hoop. One is for marking when you hoop or when you mark them at the hoop once it's already on your machine. So let's take a look at a little video here. We're using the square here. We are centering it over our fabric where we want it. And we're pressing on that little blue sticker after we've got everything lined up the way we want it. We press on that little blue sticker and it holds it there while we're doing our adjustments for our needle. Then we adjust. And once we have it where we want it, we can remove that, that template and we can start our quilting. And we know we'll be in the right place when we're doing our quilting. So super easy to do that. Now, before we do the crazy quilting, I do want to take you under my camera because I want to show you those templates. Oh, hang on just a second. I dropped one. There we go. There we go. So here I have a little square. And here is the general idea of a quilt sandwich. Quilt top, batting, and backing. I always like my batting and backing at least 3 inches outside of my quilt. So if I have to quilt off of it, then I have plenty, I have something for it to quilt onto. I don't do it that much on smaller ones. I'll just use maybe 2 inches, but that way when I quilt off, it's quilting onto something. So if I'm going to get placement for this, before I put it on my machine, here is one of my squares. I can bring it on, line it up, get it where I want because I'm going to do a design over the whole thing. I can take a yellow target sticker, place that right in the center, matching up these crosshairs with these crosshairs, and then I can remove that and take that directly to my machine now and line up with that center point and do my quilting. Okay, very easy to do that. But if I'm already at my machine and I want to do these individual little diamonds, I can make sure that this blue sticker is over the hole in the center, and I can line these up, press this down, get my needle right to that center point, and then before I take off with my quilting, I can remove that. It's going to quilt right in that square. Then I can move to another diamond. Then I can move to another diamond, put that on there, line up my needle again, and I'm off to the races. So I can do that with each and every one of those. And let me just, well, we'll show you the hooping when we go back in a moment because I want us to get to our Q&A. But that's how easy it is to use those placement kit. So let's actually, before we go on to crazy quilting, let's bring Tammy in for another Q&A and see what's going on over in the chat. Hey, Tammy.
Hey, Diane, it is going great over here in the chat. They're active today, and which I love. And we did have a question, when you were talking about thread that you use, and you mentioned Keenstar, we had people like, oh, they didn't know that you can use Keenstar to do the quilting.
Sure.
I said, yes, it actually is beautiful. So then we had a question, and I said, well, let me bring this to Diana because
Stacking, I don't know if you can see, that's a Keenstar. Yes. That's one of the colors that comes in today's Keenstar set that we have available. Sure, you can do all kinds of quilting with Keenstar.
Well, we had the question, would you run your Keenstar on your bobbin?
Well, for quilting like this, where I'm never going to see the back, no, I would just use my regular bobbin thread. But if I'm going to see the back of it and I want the back to look as beautiful as the front, I absolutely can use Keenstar in my bobbin. Keenstar runs beautifully through your bobbin. You can even use it in your sergers with no problem at all.
That's right. And I did tell them, it all would depend on your project. Like you said, if you're not going to see the back of it, don't waste that Keen Star, because I love my Keen Stars and I don't want to waste it with something you can't see. So yeah, I do rub my Keen Star, my bobbin all the time when I do freestanding lace, for example.
Oh, for sure.
Perfect. I mean, it's beautiful. Another question we had, and I forgot to mention it, when you were going through those blocks and you were bringing them up, someone had asked, is there a way to find those blocks without going one by one?
There is. When we go back in, I'll try to remember. Let me write myself a question or a note. I'll show you how to do it in the software, because we're just about to go back into the software here in just a moment.
Great. And one more question before I let you go. We had someone ask about, are they able to bring their own blocks in to embellish them? And I think you kind of went over that when you were auditioning your fabric. Is that correct?
Right. And you'll see here when I come back in, I'm going to bring in some other things to show you as well. So stick with me. We're still going to be talking about that some more.
And I know, if somebody had asked about the crazy quilting, and are you going to be showing that as well?
It's coming up.
I know.
Coming up.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you get back to it, because you're going to answer all these questions I have for you, I know, in the next segment. So we'll check with you at the end of it.
Great. Well, I love those questions. They're fantastic. And yes, we'll see you before the end of the event, Tammy. Thank you. And folks, please keep your questions coming. So crazy quilting, like I said, used to be all done by hand, but today we can do it by our embroidery machine. And our founder, Eileen Roach, wrote a beautiful book on crazy quilting. It actually comes with projects and design files so that you can make your crazy quilts. And you can do things like this cute little bag, this little book cover. I love that. There's even a thing in there for this pillow. Isn't that beautiful? So you get all the information you need in the book to create a beautiful crazy quilt like this. And isn't that gorgeous? So if you follow the book, you can actually make that. I love that. Super beautiful. And, back in the 1700s, when you made crazy quilts like this, they were something very special, because all those little odd pieces of lace and stuff that you would save to put in these quilts and silks, they were very precious to you. Well, our crazy quilts today can be just as precious, but we can do them on our embroidery machine. So you can get started with your crazy quilting with this book. I think it's a great book to help guide you through the process. And it is available today for $26.99. It's below in the cart. And like I said, you get the patterns and the design files. Don't forget to use today's free ship code of Harvest Days. However, I want us to go back into the software, My Quilt Embellisher, because you can make your own crazy quilting in My Quilt Embellisher. Now, I told you I would show you how you can find your blocks. So let's go into our block library and see right down here where it says find. Let me type in, I'm going to type in pinwheel. And it's actually bringing up all the blocks in here with pinwheels. So you can do that. Now, if your name of your block is something different than how we've named them, because if you know about quilting, quilting blocks can have lots of different names, the same block. So if you can't find it, think about what that block is. Is it a star block? Start with classic stars. Really easy to run through here and find yours, but you can always try out a name right there in that find box. If you want to bring in your own designs, come in here to merge. It will open up the filing cabinet of your computer and allow you to find wherever you save your files. And then you'll click open and bring that in, and then you can work with it on top of your quilting. Okay, so let's talk about crazy quilting now. I need a background. I need something that looks like a piece of crazy quilting, right? A piece of fabric. So I have a little block created. And the first thing I need to tell this software is what size is my finished block. So to do that, I click right here and I click Define Scale. I hold down my mouse key and I just draw a line across the top there. And it brings up a size. I want it to know that my block is an 8 by 8. There we go. It's adjusted my artwork for me because this is just my artwork at this point. Now I can add my crazy quilting. So if I come up here and click special motif. Some of these in here are really very historically accurate crazy quilting stitches, and some of them are brand new and they are all gorgeous. But let's choose this little leaf. All I do is hold down my mouse key and drag and hold it down again, and I just work myself across my line. Now see how these are all different shapes? That's because with hand quilting, you're never going to get a stitch the exact same way every single time. So with crazy quilting, having them a little bit different each time is perfectly okay. So I could come back in and choose another one. Let's see, what about, what about this one right here? And I could come down here and I can create my crazy stitches along this line. And I can, whoops, I'll fix that in a second. And I can just work my way across. Now, you might be saying, yeah, okay, but I like them to be even. You're someone who likes that linear look, that even look. There's not a problem with that because you can do that too. Just come up here, click this run button, then click special motif. Oh, wait, once you click the run button, we've got to make our line. So click here at the start, drag it down to the bottom, and then right click. Then over here, it's going to say standard. You want it to say special motif. Did my line didn't hold on there. Hang on just a second. Let me redo that. I want to hold it. It's not, hang on. There we go. I want to drag it down. There we go. Now I want to right click. There we go. Because it's in special motif and there's some stitch already chosen, but I'm going to click there and bring in my special motifs because I want to add what I like. And so I'm going to click on that one. Now, do you see how small and tight that is? Right up here at stitch length, I can change that so I can see it a little bit better. Let's see. Let's make sure that it's highlighted. There we go. And click apply. There we go. And now I can see it better. And I can do that on all of these lines. And then if I come up here to view and click backdrop, it takes the backdrop away and it lets me see these. Now I messed this up a little bit, so I can go in here and undo those pieces that I don't like. And then when I go back, I can come back in here and click my special motif. And it was that one, I believe. And I could come right in here and make myself a new one. And I can make myself a new one right there as well. So I can fix that how I like. Then once I have it all done, I go to File, Save As, and save it just like I saved all of my other designs. That's how easy it is to create your own crazy quilting in the software. So now let's go back to our presentation and talk about those custom quilting designs by Amelie Scott. Now, we know her for edge-to-edge quilting, which is beautiful, but she has created a whole new collection called custom quilting. And not only do you get the designs, you are going to also get these patterns for all of these different table runners as well. It's at a great event price of $95. Here are just some of the designs. You get 6 quilt tops along with those table runners that I showed you. And so instead of just showing you there, let's go under my camera because I actually put one together. So here is the book that you get with all of the different patterns in it. She gives you really good instructions. And what I love about hers is at the back of the book, there is an index of all the different patterns. So you can use these designs in any quilt you like, but she also has all of these beautiful projects in here. And the one that I chose was the Quilting Blueberry Bites because I loved these flowers. Now, I didn't do a big long table runner because I have a square dining room table. So I did more of a mat. So I followed the design or the instructions for the pattern to create my runner. And then I printed out my print and stick targets from my target paper to line them up and get my quilting right where I wanted it, brought it to my machine, lined up my needle, quilted out my piece. Now this is finished. Obviously I wouldn't have had it bound by that point. And then I did another one which was for this design here. But this was super simple to do. I think I finished this whole piece in a couple of hours, from the actual piecing of it on my sewing machine to doing the quilting. It wasn't difficult at all. And you know, you can always play with the colors. The blues might not be your thing. You might want to do reds and pinks or something like that. But it was super simple to do that with the Amelie Scott custom quilting designs. And here are 6 bonus table runners that you got, that are the different holiday seasons or times of year. And then here are the pie ones that you get. Pumpkin pie, lemon pie, peach pie, cherry pie, and of course, good old apple pie. So you get all of these, plus you get the seashells as well. So for all of those people that like the shore and stuff, that'll come in very handy for you. Again, this is a physical product that will get sent to you. So use that code of Harvest Days for free shipping to any US address. Again, $95 in today's special event. And remember, you have today and the next 48 hours to rewatch today's event and to continue to shop. So if you want to look at this over again, you want to show some of it to someone at home, you can feel free to do that because you've got 48 hours. Now I want us to talk about hoops. So the only hoop I will ever use or would ever use for quilting on my embroidery machine is Dime's Snap Hoop Monster. I've been using mine for years. It takes the weight and the stress off of your hands. It holds your quilt into place. It is Dime's 2-piece magnetic hooping system. And can I tell you right now, it is not going to hurt your embroidery machine. That's a little bit of an urban legend that gets put out in there on the internet from time to time. It will not. Dime does really thorough testing on their hoops. I know there's a hoop that is new that I've been asking for a couple of years, but it literally had to be tested that long before we were able to put it out to our customers and to all of us educators as well. So I know that these hoops are well tested before they get put out. And I use mine for quilting and I only use a snap hoop for quilting. That's what I was going to say. But you can use them for other things as well. You can use them for hard to hoop items like baby bodysuits, t-shirts, anything that is a little bit tubular, that's a little bit difficult to hoop. Thicker fabrics like your quilt sandwiches. It's also great, again, if you have achy hands. And to find it, you're going to go down into the shopping area, find your machine manufacturer, Janome, Bernina, Brother, Foth, whomever that is. And then you're going to click on the View Product button. And then it will bring up a information page and an Add to Cart button. Please do not just click the Add to Cart button, because that just tells the computer to send you any old hoop. You want to click the hoop on the hoop that you want specifically. So there is also a drop down box on that page. And in that, you're going to see all of your hoop sizes and the machines that fit those hoops. Then you click on it, then you add it to your cart, and don't forget to use your discount for free shipping on that hoop. If you've used snap hoops before, I'd love to hear from you. Today might be a great day to pick up your second or third snap hoop. Or if you've never used them and you really want to get into your quilting, I highly recommend it. In fact, let's go under my camera again. So here is my little 4x4 hoop. And I'm not showing you a bigger one because truly, in custom quilting, your smaller hoops are kind of easier to use because you can get your whole piece there. You're quilting smaller sections. With excuse me, edge to edge, you're quilting the biggest area you can. Not necessarily so with custom quilting. So it's 3 pieces. Your top hoop is, or your top frame is where the magnets are shielded, right there. Here is your plastic shield. Don't throw it away. It's meant to hold your top and bottom frames apart when they're in storage. And then here is your bottom hoop, the metal part of the hoop. And this arm will look like the same. It will look the same as the arm on your standard hoop. That's why you need to go in and choose your specific hoop so that your machine will read it. Now, on the back of this hoop, you're going to have 2 pieces of velour there. Please don't use sticky back stabilizer on the back of this particular hoop. It will ruin this velour and it can cause knot to run over the bed of your machine as smoothly as it should. So if you're looking for a hoop that you can use sticky back on, then I invite you to try out our dime sticky hoop, which is meant only for sticky back stabilizers. So here is my bottom hoop, and I'm just going to bring in my little piece from Amelie Scott, and we'll bring it in here. Let's see. I don't think I needed my 5x7 on here, I think, to actually get this whole piece in here. But I have my quilt sandwich on here. Yeah, I might get most of it in here for you. Now, I figure out where the bottom left of my pieces, my hoop, because I can feel it right there. And then I take my top frame, line it up with that bottom corner, because I can feel it, move it around, and then I drop it. Now, if it's not exactly the way I want it, I can adjust it. I can pull from the outside if I need to, because it's not going to unhoop something like it would with our traditional hoops. And then I'm ready to actually quilt that area. Then I would lift up my top hoop. I would leave my bottom hoop on my embroidery machine, and I would move this to the next part that I want to quilt, maybe this beautiful flower. And then I would readjust it. Now, obviously, this isn't fitting in there because it's, there we go. See, that's why you need that extra fabric and backing, so that it would have something to stitch onto. But then I would be able to do that. And actually, I would have used a bigger hoop for this. But I wanted to show you how easy it is to hoop. And you don't ever have to take the bottom off. You can just readjust. While you're in there, you can use your target stickers or your centering templates to make sure you're centered up in your hoop and you're ready to go and get that done. So again, just go down and find your manufacturer, click the drop down box to find the one that fits your machine. We also have another product which I love, and that's called our hoop guard. The hoop guard is great because it will help keep all of the quilt that is in the throat of your machine from falling into your stitching space. If you ever had that happen, you only have to have it happen once, and then you do everything you can to keep this fabric out of that area. And your hoop guard actually acts as a block. And we have those available in the standard hoop guard, which is for 4x4 and 5x7 hoops. And we also have our jumbo hoop guard, which is great for our 6x10 and larger hoops. So here is another look at our hoop guards for our monster snap hoops. Just $17.99 in today's event. Now, I want us to talk about managing the weight of our quilt, but before, well, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. And then there's one more thing I want to show you in the software. So managing the weight of the quilt, as I said, is super important. And we can see that right in this photograph here. See how all the weight of the quilt is pulling down the front here? It's putting weight on the arm of your machine, it's putting weight on your needle, and it's putting weight on your hoop. That can cause your hoop to snap apart and come apart. The first time that happens, it will scare you to death because it makes such a noise. But if you're using a quilt weight management system, that's not going to happen. There it is when it's snapped out of there. I'm glad that wasn't me because that would have scared me to death. So I want to introduce you all to the weightless quilter. The weightless quilter is a frame system with flexible arms that hold your quilt for you. It's like having your friends standing there holding, and it allows your quilt to move while your hoop is moving and the quilting process is going on. Very simple and easy to use. So here is the frame system that sits on the floor, and you have the 3 flexible poles. Now let's talk about, well, you also have the clamp that holds the quilt on those flexible poles. Now let's talk about how you would set this up. If you have a small table that you quilt on, 2 of those floor bars on the outside of your table on the end where your quilt is at. So don't put it on the head of your machine. Put it down where your hoop and your quilt is at. 2 of the bars, 3 of the flexible poles works perfectly. If you have a larger table, you can put one of those floor bars underneath. To put a floor bar underneath, you just need about 1 inch of clearance, so not much at all there. And then you can set that up basically the same way we did with the small one. We just moved it in underneath that table. If you're doing free motion quilting on your sewing machine, perfect to use the weightless quilter. Set it up like a horseshoe with the whole entire frame and all of the poles, because that's going to take pressure off your shoulders, your forearms, and allow you to move with your hands a lot easier. And here you can see Christine Connor using it. She's the one that says it's like having her friends holding her quilt. She loves it. And you can see she has a cabinet. It's just slid right underneath that cabinet because you only need that 1 inch of space. If you have a really tiny space, you can still use it right up against a window like you see here. Just use 2 of the floor bars. Use 1 of the flexible pieces over here to hold one edge and hold the other 2 corners out here with one of the poles. That way you can still stand in front of or sit in front of your machine with no problems at all. You can also use it for your multi-needle machines. So set it up again about like the horseshoe shape with all 4 of your flexible arms, and it will hold your quilt while you're using your multi-needle machine too. Now here's someone sitting at a sit-down quilting machine using it. Again, a great way to keep the pressure and all off your shoulders and your arms while you're doing that free motion quilting as you see here. Here it is. Another way you can use it is for your binding. So instead of having to manage the whole weight of your binding, like up over your quilt up over your shoulder while you're doing your binding on one edge, let your weightless quilter hold all of that weight of the quilt while you sew on your binding. And then you can either finish by hand your binding, or I love actually doing it on the finished binding on my machine as well. So today we have the weightless quilter available for a special event price of just $269.99. And don't forget to use your free ship code of Harvest Days. And then we also have a brand new product called our weightless quilter tabletop. Now our traditional weightless quilter, as I said, sits on the floor. Will hold any size quilt, even a king size. But with the weightless quilter tabletop, this is a piece that actually has 2 arms that attach to any work surface. So if you truly don't have any space, you can still attach this to your work surface with these clamps. Now this is perfect for quilts about 54 inches and smaller. So you can also use it for other things. If you are doing a bridal veil or a prom dress or something like that, and you want some of the weight to be held while you're doing some of the work on it, use your weightless quilter tabletop to manage that weight for you by your sewing machine. Will work really easily for you there. So you get both of those arms with the clamps to hold your quilt. And this is so new. You guys are only about the 4th or 5th group that has seen this, and we have it at a great special event price of just $53.99. Now, there is so much more. I'm just looking down to make sure. Actually, I want to show you one more thing. We've got a couple of minutes. I do want to come back in to our software, because I told you before how you can audition your fabrics and your threads with your quilting. So once again, I made a photograph of my fabric. Bring it in. There it is. Now, I am going to come up here because I need to be able to put my quilting in, and this isn't a block, it's just artwork. So I'm going to come in here and click rectangle, and I'm going to draw out a rectangle right there. I'm going to come over here and click set, and click run stitch. Now, it's still set at a special motif. Let's set that back to standard. There we go. Now I have a run stitch there, and that allowed all of my buttons to open up here for my quilting. So now I can come in here, choose a quilting design, fill it in my square, and now I can see what the quilting is going to look like. That's actually the stitches. Now, that color isn't really my favorite color for this. I'm going to come down here. This palette I'm seeing, I know is my Dime Exquisite 40 weight thread. But if I wanted to look at another palette, I could left click on this, any color below, and it would bring up this palette selection frame, and it allows you to choose any of your popular thread brands, and they're all there. Floriani, Isacord, of course, Exquisite 40 weight by Dime, Kingstar, all of them, Madeira, they're all in here. So choose your thread brand that you like, and then come in and choose a color that you like. So I like that little chambray blue better. That's kind of pretty. Now that's exactly, I'm going to zoom in on that. That's exactly how those stitches would look with that thread on that particular fabric. I also want to see it in this green because that's kind of, I like that a lot. For me, that's probably the one I would choose. But some folks really like to do a lot of their quilting in white and neutral colors. That's how that would look. So you can actually audition your fabric and your thread and your quilting before you ever get to your machine. Okay, folks, that is literally the end of our event today. But remember, we have the Ultimate Quilt Embellisher Bundle. I showed you the one with just the software earlier. We have one more for you, and that has your weightless quilter with it, along with your software. You get your 8 PDF embroidery lessons and your 30-minute private tutorial session as well for free when you buy this bundle, and this bundle is just $6.49. So let's bring Tammy back in for our final Q&A before we say our goodbyes. Hey Tammy, what's going on over in the chat?
Well, that was a lot of information you gave us, but it was great information. But so we just want to remind everybody that they have the next 48 hours that they can rewatch the presentation. Also, I want to let them know that I have fixed, well, I didn't personally, but I have had someone, they added the ocean waves into the shopping cart. So for those of you that were looking for that program, you should be able to just refresh your screens and see that it's there now. So hopefully they can find that. But Diana, they were a great group. I mean, I loved them. They interact today. It was so much fun having everyone over there. So we had a great time. They're just coming in right now telling you thank you for your great presentation. You've inspired them. And Diana, I agree totally. I enjoyed your presentation, and I thank you for having me over in the chat today.
Well, Tammy, I know that we always have the best guests in the world. So thank you all so much for spending your time with us today. It was my honor to be able to talk about my favorite subject with you all, quilting. Tammy, I know that they were in great hands over there, and I love it when you and I get to work together. So thank you so much for hosting the chat. And of course, we can't do these events without great shops and folks like Oh My Crafty. So we want to thank Matt Winters and everyone at Oh My Crafty for hosting today's event. And until Dime and Oh My Crafty get together for another great event, we'll say bye for now and happy custom quilting.